Every animal on Earth can feel pain. Many animals grieve. Elephants hold vigils over their dead. Dogs whimper when their owners leave. But not a single one of them cries. No tears. No wet eyes. Nothing. Out of every mammal, bird, reptile, and fish on the planet, exactly one species leaks fluid from its eyes when it feels sad. Us. And when scientists finally figured out why, they uncovered something uncomfortable. The answer starts with a strange biological fact. Your body produces 3 distinct types of tears. 2 of them make complete biological sense. The third type should not exist. The first type are basal tears. These fluids constantly lubricate your eyes. Every animal has them. The second type are reflex tears. These wash away dust and irritants. Most mammals share this trait. Then you have emotional tears. No other species on Earth produces them. Chimpanzees do not cry. Elephants do not cry. Pet owners often believe their dogs cry. They are incorrect. Charles Darwin thought elephants and monkeys wept. He was wrong. Advingerhout spent over 20 years studying this behavior at Tilburg University. He documented his findings in a book called Why Only Humans Weep. Every modern scientist agrees with his conclusion. Humans are the only animals that cry emotional tears. This is a biological anomaly. Emotional tears do not protect the eye. They do not wash out debris. They blur your vision. They leave you totally vulnerable. They should not exist. Unless they serve a completely different purpose. And they do. In the 1980s, a biochemist at the University of Minnesota attempted something completely new. William Frey II gathered volunteers and showed them sad movies. He collected their emotional tears in test tubes. Then he collected reflex tears using chopped onions. He placed both fluids under a microscope. The 2 samples were chemically different. Emotional tears contained 24% more protein. They held 4 times the potassium of reflex tears. They were loaded with stress hormones. Frey found ACTH, a direct marker of anxiety. He also discovered high levels of prolactin. Emotional tears had 30 times the manganese concentration of human blood. High manganese is found in the brains of people with chronic depression. Frey proposed a radical theory based on this data. He stated that crying literally flushes stress chemicals out of the body. He defined tears as an excretory process. He believed they remove toxic byproducts of emotion. Emotional tears are a completely different fluid from regular tears. Your body manufactures a specific chemical cocktail when you cry from sadness. Nothing else triggers this chemical reaction. But Frey's flushing theory had a major problem. A full sobbing session produces about 1 milliliter of tears. That volume is barely a thimbleful. This is not nearly enough liquid to purge meaningful amounts of hormones. If tears do not clean the eyes and they do not flush out chemicals, a mystery remains. What are they actually for? A professor at Vassar College designed an experiment to answer this exact question. Randolph Cornelius gathered global news photographs of people crying real tears. He then digitally removed the tears from their faces. He left the rest of the facial expressions entirely intact. Every wrinkled brow and downturned mouth remained exactly the same. Cornelius showed both sets of photographs to volunteers. He asked them to identify the emotion of the person in the picture. When viewing the original images, almost everyone identified sadness or grief. Then the volunteers looked at the altered photos. The responses immediately scattered. Some volunteers identified awe. Others guessed the subjects felt puzzlement. Several people stated the faces showed zero emotion. Without the physical liquid on the cheeks, the faces became unreadable. Robert Provine conducted a similar study at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. He removed the tears from images and found the exact same result. The liquid acts as the primary emotional signal. Remove the fluid, and the meaning vanishes. Tears function as the primary communication tool for human sadness. Without them, the human face loses its ability to display one of our most powerful emotional states. This means human tears evolved for a specific reason. The fluid exists to be seen by other people. If human tears evolved specifically to be seen, that raises an obvious question. Where did this visual signal actually come from? Scientists trace the origin back to a highly dangerous sound. All mammal infants produce loud distress signals when separated from their mothers. Puppies whine. Kittens wail. Human babies scream. These calls are ancient. Babies born completely without a cerebral cortex can still cry. They lack the biological structures for conscious thought. The crying behavior originates directly inside the brainstem, but making loud noises created a severe problem for early humans. A screaming baby on the savannah directed predators to their exact location. Early human infants also faced a second survival threat. They remained completely helpless longer than any other primate. A baby chimpanzee can cling to its mother within weeks. A human infant cannot even hold up its own head for months. Our ancestors faced a deadly biological combination. The most vulnerable babies in the animal kingdom lived in a highly dangerous environment, yet they relied on the loudest possible alarm system to survive. Evolution solved this problem through a physical shift. As human infants developed motor skills, they could crawl toward a caregiver. They no longer needed to alert every animal in the area. Biology replaced the loud acoustic alarm with a quiet visual signal. The fluid worked perfectly at close range. The scream became a tear. Screaming triggers squeezing, and squeezing triggers tears. Over thousands of generations, this physical reflex became permanent. Emotional tears started as a biological glitch that became a feature. A neurological mistake gave humans a visual signal no other species possessed. We gained a clear way to broadcast distress without making a single sound. But silence alone did not guarantee this genetic change would survive. The mutation remained entirely because of what tears did to the people looking at them. In 2019, researchers at New York University designed an experiment using a simple economics game. They wanted to measure exactly how a crying face changes the behavior of strangers. Lawrence Ian Reed and his research team set up a trust game. Participants watched a video of their assigned partner before deciding whether to hand over real money. Some partners displayed neutral expressions, while others looked visibly sad. Half of the videos included digitally added tears on the partner's cheeks. The results revealed a clear shift in human behavior. Participants willingly gave up their money to the partners with wet eyes. The facial expression itself did not matter at all. Tears alone drove the decision to trust the stranger. The researchers then ran a second version called the dictator game. In this setup, showing generosity offered absolutely no personal benefit to the giver. The tears instantly lost their power. Tears bypass pity entirely. They actively alter a stranger's calculation of self-interest. Brain scans confirm this automatic response. Functional magnetic resonance imaging shows that seeing tears activates the exact same neural circuits that process your own pain. The observer experiences immediate, involuntary empathy. Evolutionary biologist Orrin Hassan identified another physical factor behind this intense reaction. Tears physically blur your vision. You cannot fight effectively. You cannot run away safely. You become completely exposed to danger. Biologists call this severe vulnerability an honest signal. Because tears handicap you, they are nearly impossible to fake convincingly during a real threat. The observer automatically trusts the display because it comes at a genuine physical price. Tears operate as a social weapon. They hack the emotional circuitry of everyone nearby. They lower aggression, raise trust, and force an undeniable urge to help. Evolution preserved this biological glitch. It became the most powerful tool for manipulating human behavior ever produced. But this immense power introduces an obvious danger. What happens when people figure out how to trigger this response on purpose? Toddlers quickly learn to cry without leaking actual fluid to demand immediate attention. Parents counter this by looking for wet cheeks as physical proof of genuine distress. This deception happens across different species. Evolutionary biologist Dario Maestrapieri observed this exact behavior in infant rhesus macaques. The young monkeys shriek more frequently when their mothers start weaning them. Over time, the mothers gradually ignore these calls because most of the alarms are entirely false. Adult humans face the exact same problem on a much larger scale. A 2025 study spanning 5 countries proved that humans do not blindly trust a crying face. The surrounding context changes everything. Observers rate tears shed during a courtroom trial or a political debate as highly dishonest. People who display high levels of psychopathic traits inherently distrust crying individuals. Conversely, society trusts tears more when they come from stoic men or people with unexpressive faces. When Hillary Clinton cried during a 2008 campaign event, the country divided over her motives. Half the voters saw genuine emotion, while the other half saw a calculated strategic maneuver. The threat of manufactured crying is so severe that institutions actively pass rules to stop it. In Ohio, prosecutors successfully banned defense attorneys from crying on command to sway juries during death penalty trials. Humans evolved the only authentic distress signal in the animal kingdom that we can also fake. The exact same physical trait that bonds communities together also serves as a tool for personal gain. Evolution handed us an incredibly effective method for survival. We immediately started abusing it. As a result, humanity had to build up intense skepticism, strict social boundaries, and explicit laws just to control our own tears. But there is one final thing tears do that scientists still struggle to explain. We frequently produce this fluid when we are perfectly safe and happy. People cry at weddings, during births, and after winning championships. We leak fluid from our eyes just by watching a soldier hug a spouse at an airport. Cognitive psychologist Steven Pinker notes that English speakers use words like touched or moved to describe this specific reaction. Michael Trimble, a neurologist at the Institute of Neurology in London, connects these emotional tears to the emergence of self-consciousness. This marks the exact point in evolution when early humans realized that other beings had inner lives. They understood for the first time that their companions could suffer and permanently disappear. Trimble argues, this realization formed the biological foundation of human morality and culture. As you age, you shed fewer tears over your own physical pain. Instead, you weep more frequently over the suffering of others. The biological trigger shifts outward. It moves from the basic instinct of personal hurt to a deep understanding that someone else is hurting. Eventually, the tears flow simply because you see goodness in the world. Every other creature on Earth lacks this empathetic capacity. Emotional tears began entirely by accident, as a neurological wiring error between human feelings and the eyeball. They survived natural selection because they provided helpless infants with a silent alarm system. They transformed into a manipulation tool capable of altering trust and stopping physical aggression. But somewhere along our timeline, this biological mistake became something else entirely. The ability to weep over another person's pain separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. We are the only living things that leak eye fluid simply because we feel too much. And researchers still cannot completely explain why this strange evolutionary glitch feels like the most human thing we do.